This is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and thank you for listening to the Wrestlebread Podcast. This is episode 8. So, starting out with some unfortunate news that I have to report. Lucha Libre veteran Silver King has died at the age of 51. He was competing at a show in London on May 11th, and during the match he suffered some health complications, which was reported as a heart attack later. Now, he was in the movie Nacho Libre as the villain named Ramses, which is who he played as in that show as well. There is video out there. I haven't looked at the video, nor do I want to look at the video, but a lot of people were saying that the fact that how long he was laying there for before they realized that he needed help. And I took a CPR class, and I always been told that seconds count. When someone goes into cardiac arrest like that, every second counts. And I found out that the referee of the match is a veteran of being a referee, has been a referee for a while, and should have noticed that there was something wrong, that when Silver King didn't get up after being pinned and was having trouble moving around, that he should have stopped the match right away. They eventually cleared out the building while they had the medical staff come in, and of course he was pronounced dead. So my condolences go out to his family, to his friends, and to everyone who knew him in the wrestling world. So rest in peace. There has been a lot of breaking news this week. One of the biggest topics that everyone is talking about is Lars Sullivan. Now, Lars Sullivan had said some racist, sexist, and homophobic remarks on a forum, in a bodybuilding forum back in 2008 to 2013. Now, someone on Reddit had brought it back to light. It was brought to light when he was in NXT, but because now he's getting this push, it was put back to light again. And then WWE had issued a statement on his behalf, apologizing and saying that he has changed. Lars Sullivan didn't come out to say anything. It was also said that he went and apologized to some of the superstars backstage and mentioned that he had changed. But people were so upset about the whole Lars Sullivan situation that someone had tweeted Snickers, who is a sponsor of WWE, about it. And they had tweeted back saying, "We learned of Lars Sullivan's comments recently and shared in your shock and disgust. As a values-based company, we find his behavior unacceptable. We have engaged the WWE to discuss this situation and seek to understand what actions they will take to swiftly address this matter." So it came out recently that he was fined $100,000 and he is required to complete sensitivity training. Now, some people didn't believe that he would actually get fined this $100,000, that they were just saying this just to keep him. Dave Mesler said that the $100,000 penalty is real, and that is likely close to what Sullivan had made in NXT last year. We don't know how he would pay the fine, if they would deduct it from his paychecks coming forward, but I found out that this is the second highest fine in WWE history. And the highest fine was actually by Stone Cold Steve Austin when he walked out in 2002, which is $150,000. As to why the amount, $100,000, was the fine, Mesler said that once word got to the sponsors about Sullivan's comment, the company knew they had to make a gesture because they want to still keep him on the roster. There were some sponsors that complained, and WWE felt it had to publicly take action. they had to do a really, really strong action to keep him because they didn't want to fire him. So they had to do something that looked like we're really sticking it to him to keep him. They think a lot of his potential. So there were people who felt as though that it wasn't enough. They feel as though he should be fired. They feel as though, some people feel as though that the fine is unnecessary. Some people believe that he hasn't changed. And what I have to say to all this is to not get upset really at Lars Sullivan. The funny thing to me, anytime situations come like this, for example, with what Hulk Hogan has said, Lars Sullivan has said, people forget the fact that WWE has had its moments. A lot of people forget that Vince McMahon has said the N-word on national TV, and that Booker T went through a segment where he was put down by Vince McMahon and Triple H. So for people to get so upset about Lars Sullivan and feel as though he needs to be fired and all this other stuff, your anger is misdirected. Your anger should be at WWE because WWE knows who Lars Sullivan is. Now, in my opinion, I feel as though it's not really fine to penalize someone money-wise for something that they did before they became your employee. The only way I see them doing something like this is if they had asked him about this previously and he said no, and then this came to light, or if they, during the interview process, when they go through their talent, if they asked him if there's anything in his social media past that they should be aware of, and he said no. In my opinion, I don't feel like he has changed. He has said a lot of things. I read some of the comments, and he comes across as one of those internet trolls who hates life. And I'm sure everyone have seen those type of internet trolls where you can say something pleasant like kittens are so adorable, and they'll come back to you that they're a dog person and a kitten should die in a horrible way. Because Lars Sullivan has also in his comments attacked Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon. He said that Vince McMahon is a crackhead. He mentioned the Hardys. And if you're so upset about what he said, you should realize that during this push that he's getting from WWE, he is physically dominating and attacking the same people that he talked about. R-Truth. He's attacking Carmella. He is attacking all these quote-unquote legends, the Hardys, Rey Mysterio. So you should be upset with the employer, WWE, because WWE knows who he is, and they want to keep him. And they're going to keep him around because they want to give him this push. And they're doing all this just so everything can die down and they can go back to their normal schedule of pushing Lars Sullivan. I feel as though the anger is misdirected. It should be directed to WWE for knowing you have this type of employee and putting the employee in a certain type of position to where as though he's attacking the exact same people that he spoke about. Now, Titus O'Neil had tweeted out that Lars Sullivan came to him personally to apologize to him and that he thanked Vince McMahon for taking action. I feel as though the sensitivity training is a good idea if they actually put him through it. For someone to have those type of comments and things like that, and for everything he says, like I said, I don't believe he has changed. Those type of people who say things like that, it always be in their mind. And there's people who say, well, oh, it was so long ago. Maybe he was immature. He said this stuff while he was training in WWE. And it's like, come on, I can see if you were a teenager or something like that, where you don't really think of your consequences, but we're talking about a grown person here who said these things and said things about rape and things like that. My anger, my frustrations are not with Lars Sullivan. My frustrations are with WWE. And you have to really think about it. You have to really think about the type of company that we are defending. It's WWE. Look how long it took for us to get an African American champion. Look at all the gimmicks that a lot of African American wrestlers had to go through. We had Crime Time, we had MVP, we had a lot of African American wrestlers. Look at what they did with the Japanese wrestlers. So don't get upset really at Lars Sullivan. Lars Sullivan is an extension of some of the things that goes on in WWE. I mean, look at their Hall of Fame. They have Mike Tyson, they have Donald Trump, they have murderers in their Hall of Fame. So you gotta look at the big picture here, guys. Now, a funny thing that I came across was that Vince McMahon did an interview with Variety magazine to promote SmackDown going to Fox. And the person who interviewed him actually asked him about his response to John Oliver's rant on WWE. And in response, Vince McMahon said that getting time off is easy for talents. And he said, and I quote, "Anybody who wants time off can get time off. That's easy. In addition to that, it's easy to weave a talent in and out of a storyline. If they get injured, you're not expecting that. Or if they have a family matter. Our characters are real people with real problems. It's a revolving situation where this talent will work these dates and that talent will work those dates." What kind of BS is this? Now, of course, this is an interview by mainstream media who do not know what exactly is going on with WWE. Because I'm sure if this was someone who knows what's going on with WWE, would definitely have such a great follow-up question to this type of stuff. You could bring up easily people like Roman Reigns or John Cena or any wrestler that WWE has pushed to the moon and constantly put on TV day in and day out and on house shows because they don't know how to create multiple top guys, that they have to put all their eggs into one basket. So please, Prince McMahon, please. So for the Saudi Arabia event, which we thought that the name of it will be Sands of Time, and all the jokes that we could have had for that. Now the event is called Super Showdown, without the hyphen that the last Super Showdown had. And we have a main event. We have The Undertaker versus Goldberg. What a match this will be, ladies and gentlemen. 5 stars automatically. Now, Saudi Arabia event will be on Friday, June 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And this was an announcement made on WWE.com. So they had said also on the card will be Kofi Kingston, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, AJ Styles, and Brock Lesnar. Another 5-star match that we're going to get is Triple H versus Randy Orton. We're going to get a 50-man battle royal. And you thought 30 men was too little. No, we're getting 50 men in the ring for a battle royal. I'm sure Braun Strowman's going to win that one. Now, this Undertaker versus Goldberg 5-star match that we're about to see, this will actually be Goldberg's first match since WrestleMania 33 when he faced Brock Lesnar. Both men are in their 50s, prime of their life. I mean, neither one of them has had any type of injuries, hasn't lost any steam or anything like that. And this was the match that we wanted for past 25 years, give or take. That, they say patience is a virtue and that good things come to those who wait. So if you have been waiting these 25 years for this match to come, this is our time. This is our moment. And I actually found out the only time that Goldberg and The Undertaker actually crossed paths was in the 2017 Royal Rumble match when The Undertaker eliminated Goldberg when his back was turned. So, yeah, I mean, this pay-per-view event is going to be 5 stars. I know it is, because why not? I mean, all the greatness that they're doing for this Saudi Arabia money is just so awesome, isn't it, guys? I was being sarcastic in case you couldn't tell. On to better news, though. So we got some AEW news. We got some new signings and some new matches. So they just signed Angelico, who will be tagging up with Jack Evans, and they will be going against the Best Friends. We also have a 6-woman tag team match with, and I'm going to butcher all these names, so I'm not even going to try it, but it looks like it's going to be a really good match. And AEW also signed Earl Hebner, who hasn't been in WWE for a while, of course, and who has been a pretty good referee. A lot of people, of course, remember him for all the big main event matches that has been going on in WWE for years, particularly the Montreal Screwjob between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. AEW also came out with a press release to Variety as well, stating that wins and losses matter in AEW. And Cody Rhodes said, "One thing we really strongly want to present is wins and losses mattering again in pro wrestling. That it takes more than a W and L column. We're talking about percentage of time someone loses to this particular maneuver, percentages against somebody of this height, a whole by the numbers approach that really intrigues me. It's not a cornerstone of AEW necessarily, but it's a great element we're working on, and that's what's going to be exclusive to us." And then he said, "As much as I say it, working for Vince McMahon and WWE was a wonderful job. It wasn't wrestling. That's something I learned a lot about. The grittiness and sports-centric element of the industry that doesn't exist really anywhere else currently. We had the opportunity to seize that." Shots fired. It kind of makes sense for the wins and losses to matter because of all the situations in WWE where someone is gone for a while and then immediately comes back for a title shot. Or when someone has been losing for a while and then suddenly wins one match and gets a title shot. It's very interesting to see how they're going to do this, because I don't know how they're going to do this whole percentages against someone of this height, if someone loses to a particular maneuver. It sounds like it's very UFC boxing type of stats, which I don't know how that's going to work out in a wrestling match. I guess if someone always loses to the small package, that suddenly they're going to keep on losing to the small package. So now it's finally been announced. AEW is going to be on TNT. AEW had a press release, and they also had an event at Warner Media's, and they stated that later this year, so it says it will air live weekly matches on TNT in prime time, as well as streaming them on Bleacher Report Live and on pay-per-view. I haven't watched anything on Bleacher Report Live, so I'm not quite sure how the pricing would go as far as subscribing to them. But it's very interesting to see what day and time AEW will air. Now, my hubby feels as though that they should air on Mondays and go one-on-one against WWE, which I feel as though may be a terrible idea. I feel as though they should be ideally on a Tuesday, possibly on a Thursday, just so they can capture the audience that is going to be missing because of SmackDown. I feel that if you put Vince in the corner, he's going to just go crazy. And we all have seen what happened the last time somebody came and tried to do Monday Night Wars. He went crazy, just let it all hang out, basically, and he won. And I don't want AEW to be put in a position where people have to choose. And you're going to have casuals choosing WWE because that's what they're used to. I would like for the casuals to be able to see AEW, but enjoy WWE too. I feel as though that AEW shouldn't directly be in competition with WWE like that. I think AEW would be very smart to say, hey, we all can be in this together. Of course, there's a competition. And I found out that a Double or Nothing pay-per-view, that for us in the US, it's going to cost us about $50 to $60, which is a big sting because we've been paying $10 for pay-per-views, even though 9 times out of 10, they're crappy pay-per-views. So I'm very interested to see how the pay-per-view rates will go for Double or Nothing, if people are going to pay $50 or $60. And I know there'll be people who will pay it, but I'm very interested to see of who will pay that amount of money versus people who's going to try to look up things on YouTube and on streams and things like that. But we'll see once Double or Nothing comes in about 2 weeks. A pay-per-view that is coming this Sunday is the Money in the Bank. And not that much of a build or excitement going to Money in the Bank, so it just makes me kind of weary of going to Extreme Rules because that's going to be in Philadelphia. And a part of me wants to go because I love going to live events. I especially love going to live events in Philadelphia because there is no filter for us. It may not come across on TV, but when you're in the crowd and you hear some of the chants that people be doing, it's hilarious. But you don't want to spend money on a pay-per-view that you know is going to be a waste of your money. And they already had announced a few matches. That's going to be, I believe, Kofi Kingston versus Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens in a triple threat match. And it's going to be Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin. And of course, the match can change. WWE normally announce matches like this and to change it up. I think it was originally Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin when they announced it back in March 4th. So, of course, as you see, the matches have already changed. We'll see what happens once we get closer to Extreme Rules. I mean, first we have to go through Money in the Bank, don't we, guys? So I'm going to give you some of my predictions as my weekly segment this week. This is going to be a very hard pay-per-view to watch because I am a Game of Thrones fan. And this is the biggest finale in TV history, I have to say. So a lot of these, if WWE is smart, they should know that they are going to lose to the Game of Thrones finale because this is on the network. So we can watch this anytime technically. Whereas though with Game of Thrones, you have to watch it live or else you have to stay off of social media and lock yourself in the house because everyone's going to be talking about it. So if WWE is smart, they will put the popular matches first so that the less popular matches, unfortunately, will not get a lot of watch time, but us fans won't really miss much. So I'm going to go through the matches and I'll give you my predictions. Hopefully, I will be right on some of these. So we have first off the Cruiserweight Championship. We have Tony Nese versus Daivari. So I have Tony Nese winning. I don't really have him losing his title reign just yet. It seems like the title reigns change for the Cruiserweights on the big match, on the big pay-per-views. So I have Tony Nese holding on to the title just for a little bit longer to build up his reign a little more, to give the championship more worth. So the next match we have, and this is going to be on the kickoff show, which some people are mad about. We have the Planet's champions, Daniel Bryan and Rowan versus the Usos. And it is very confusing. A lot of people have mentioned this too, that we have the SmackDown titles being defended against a tag team from Raw. I, of course, have Daniel Bryan and Rowan winning because you can't cut a whole promo about starting the tag team evolution if you're going to lose the titles a week later. It is WWE, I understand. But I have the SmackDown tag team champions retaining for this match. it's a shame that the tag team division on SmackDown isn't that strong anymore because we lost a lot of tag teams. To whereas though the only other tag team that they could have defended the title against in SmackDown is Rusev and Nakamura. And Rusev and Nakamura aren't even really wrestling like that together. I have the Planet's tag team champions retaining. We also have the steel cage match. We have Shane McMahon versus The Miz. There's been a lot of build for this match. But I have The Miz retaining. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with The Miz after this. I know with Shane McMahon, he's going to go against Roman Reigns eventually. They're building up for that. But I don't know what they're going to do with The Miz. He has to go against another heel that is strong enough to handle him as a babyface. I feel as though Shane McMahon as a heel worked perfectly for The Miz as a babyface because we're not used to The Miz as a babyface. But he's done a really good job, especially with his promos, of course. But I have The Miz winning and possibly closing this feud to an end. So next up, we have the first of the women's championship matches. We have Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. Now, I have Becky Lynch losing at least one of her titles. And I have her losing with this one. Now, I feel like I may be backwards with this, but I have Charlotte Flair winning. But I realized that this would be title number 9 for her, which I think will be the record. I think number 8 has her tied. And I think it's Mickie James who held the title, held a championship 8 times. So I think with Charlotte Flair winning number 9, it will break that streak. And I feel like they may save that for possibly SummerSlam. But I have a feeling that Becky is definitely going to lose one of her titles. And I feel like Lacey Evans isn't exactly ready to hold the title yet. So with that said, I have the next up is the Raw Women's Championship with Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans. And I have Becky Lynch retaining this title. I feel like if Charlotte Flair wins the title, we have Bayley, we have a number of women that can go against Charlotte Flair. I feel like the feud between Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans is stronger now than Becky Lynch versus Charlotte, because we've seen Becky Lynch versus Charlotte plenty of times, and it's the same old story. I'm the queen, bow down, things like that. I feel as though with Lacey Evans, it's a little bit different because you could tell that they really don't like each other. I mean, with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, and I like Becky, but Becky doesn't really punch Charlotte Flair like that. If you really watch when they ever, start getting to the hitting in the ring, Becky Lynch doesn't really punch Charlotte Flair. I mean, she obviously punches air when it comes to Charlotte Flair. But you feel it with Lacey Evans because her and Lacey Evans aren't exactly best friends. So it's a lot easier to fight someone who you not exactly best friends with. I know that's kind of backwards because they say best friends actually have better matches because you trust each other. But I feel like with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, they don't want to hurt each other, so they don't really punch each other that hard. But I have Becky Lynch winning this one because I feel as though Lacey Evans isn't ready yet to hold the title. She's just starting to really get stronger in her gimmick, in my opinion. She does still need improvement in the ring, of course, because I feel as though they brought her up too soon in NXT. But she was slightly fine in NXT with her character. But I feel as though she just needs to fine-tune it a little bit on the main roster and everything will click. And it feels like she is starting to get that way. But only time will tell. So next up we have Roman Reigns versus Elias. And if you think that Elias could possibly win this match, I mean, I would be shocked if he won this match. But the fact that WWE has been putting out these 5-minute promo packages of Roman Reigns' journey from when he was loudly cheered in Philadelphia to now, I have Roman Reigns winning. And I always laugh when they do that promo package too, of them adding in the cheers in Philadelphia, that Philadelphia Royal Rumble. I have a friend who actually went to that Royal Rumble, and they said that the boos in the arena was deafening. So congrats to the editing department of WWE. So next up, I have the first of the Money in the Bank ladder match for the men's. We have the newly added Sami Zayn versus Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, Ali, Finn Balor, Andrade, and Randy Orton. So I have Andrade winning this. I think it'd be very interesting to have him win the briefcase and possibly going against whoever wins this is SmackDown. So whoever wins between Kofi Kingston and Kevin Owens. But I feel that WWE may have either Baron Corbin winning or Randy Orton winning. Sami Zayn will be a fun choice to see his promos that he cut about the Money in the Bank briefcase. But I feel as though he's going to be teaming up with Kevin Owens again as he's one of the wild cards. So he'll be teaming up with Kevin Owens again. And I don't think it makes sense for him to hold the briefcase if Kevin Owens is actively going after the title. But I have Andrade winning. It'll be very fun to see him versus Kofi Kingston. It kind of gives a fresh new type of competition, in my opinion. But I feel as though they may give it to Baron Corbin or Randy Orton just because of reasons. And that's the state that we are in WWE. So next up, we have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We have Natalya, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Dana Brooke, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Amber Moon, and Carmella. So in my opinion, this ladder match doesn't feel as exciting as the men's. Like for the men's, we're going to have a lot of high flying spots, which is what you need in a ladder match. I mean, we have Ricochet, Finn Balor, and Andrade, who we all know will give those spots. We have Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin, and Ali will do the high flying spots, of course. We have Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin, who will do a lot of the power spots. We have Randy Orton, who will give us that crazy ass RKO out of nowhere. We have Sami Zayn that will also give us crazy spots too. And for the women, I know Naomi and Amber Moon will give us a lot of crazy spots as well. Dana Brooke, she did have a good spot on SmackDown when she did the dive off of the ladder. I'm proud of her. But I don't know. I'm not that excited for it. But I have Bayley winning the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. And that's the reason why I have Charlotte winning, so that Bayley has the briefcase. It'll be a thing between Bayley and Charlotte, if Bayley is going to cash in or not. They may give it to Alexa Bliss, but I don't have Alexa Bliss winning because of the whole Nikki Cross situation we had going on this past SmackDown. I would love for Amber Moon to win, but I don't think we're going to get that. But I would love to be wrong. So next up, we have the United States Championship. We have Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio. I have Samoa Joe keeping the title. I have this feud actually continuing on. A very unique idea that I didn't even think about is Dominic turning on Rey Mysterio. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it here so soon. I think they're going to drag out the storyline a little longer between Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe. I mean, we had Cesaro on SmackDown talking about the whole Dominic situation, but I feel as though this is going to drag out just a little more. So I have Samoa Joe keeping the championship. If Rey wins the championship, of course, that's going to extend the feud too. But I feel as though Rey Mysterio's championship may come at a later time. My opinion, this feud may drag on a little bit, then break up and come back together and possibly be a win at SummerSlam, because Rey Mysterio has yet to win the United States Championship. So if he wins this title, then he would be a Grand Slam championship. So I don't know if they want to give him that type of victory and that type of history for a Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Normally those type of wins happen at the Big Four pay-per-views. So we'll see what happens with it, but I have Samoa Joe retaining. So next up, we have the WWE Championship. We have Kofi Kingston versus Kevin Owens. I have Kofi Kingston keeping the title, even though it is possible that Kevin Owens could win, but I have Kofi Kingston keeping the title just a little bit longer because this feud between him and Kevin Owens is actually have been pretty good in my opinion. I would have loved for Kevin Owens to have been a babyface for a lot longer because we had some great moments with Big O, but they had to turn to Kevin Owens pretty quickly just so they could start the feud for the Money in the Bank. But I have Kofi Kingston retaining. And lastly, we have the Universal Championship. We have Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. And I'm pretty surprised that we're getting this match this early, but I feel as though we're getting this match now because Seth Rollins is going to lose the championship to Brock Lesnar at the Saudi Arabia show. So in that case, as you probably could guess, I have Seth Rollins retaining. I have Seth Rollins retaining because the match at the Saudi Arabia show may be the revenge match for Brock Lesnar. I feel as though this is going to be the match of the night. I feel as though if WWE is smart enough, they would have one of these championship titles start the pay-per-view, whether it is the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. I feel as though one of these matches should open the show just to gain the audience, just to throw off the audience too a little bit so that we go, oh, wow, they're mixing up the card and try to get us to stay before the Game of Thrones finale comes on. So those are my predictions for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I hope I'm right on them, but I really hope that this is a good pay-per-view. Of course, pay-per-views haven't been that great because the wrestling portion of the matches haven't really been concentrated on. But we have some pretty good matches. We know that Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles is going to be a great match. Kofi Kingston versus Kevin Owens. Samoa Joe versus Rey. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We have the Planets Tag Team Champions versus the Usos, which was a pretty good match. Surprisingly, at WrestleMania, Shane McMahon versus The Miz was pretty good. So we'll see what they would do with the steel cage match. I mean, we already know that Shane McMahon is going to jump off of the cage, but we'll see. So now we're going to go through the best and worst of Raw, SmackDown, and I'm actually going to do a quick roundup of NXT this week. So 3 words, and that is Bray fucking Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is the best thing right now in wrestling. I just said that. Yes. If you haven't watched the Firefly Funhouse this week, oh, you missed a doozy. This week, Mr. Wyatt revealed his secret. And oh, was that shit scary as fuck. Now, I unfortunately missed the reveal live, but when I saw the YouTube and I saw that mask, I was like, what the hell is this? That is a thing of nightmares. I really hope that they put this man in some type of horror movie. WWE Studios need to come out with a rated R horror movie featuring Bray Wyatt in that fucking mask, because that shit was crazy. And then to find out that the mask was done by Tom Savini, and the idea came from Bray Wyatt himself. So great. I'm hoping that Bray Wyatt will be booked like Kane when he debuted back in 1997. I hope that he just, goes out and just destroys everyone. But then I thought about it, and here I go being, breaking things down. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago when people were breaking down the John Moxley video, how it's that literature class we all went to. We all were forced to read Shakespeare and analyze it and see what they meant by it. And it's because of times like this. So I would like to thank Mr. Cohen, who was my 9th grade literature teacher, who had me read Shakespeare and the Iliad too, and I had to decipher all that. And it has prepared me for this moment. So excuse me while I break down what this Bray Wyatt character could be. In my opinion, this character is going to be very complex. Now, we're not going to get the simple Finn Balor type where, he'll wrestle as the Mr. Rogers type and then he'll quote unquote call on that demonic Bray Wyatt. He sent out a tweet to Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and it said, and this is after he debuted at The Secret, "Dear Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, I just wanted to let you know that I am super sorry for all the atrocities I have committed against you guys over the years. If you ever need a third for a Shield reunion, we are totally down. Best friends with question marks." What? And get the part where he said, "we are totally down," which means him and the demonic Bray Wyatt are aware of each other. So I feel as though that Bray Wyatt is going to be a sociopath with split personalities. That's why he taught us the word. And I feel as though he will play as the Mr. Rogers character until he quote unquote loses control and then the secret comes out. So, of course, like I said, it's not going to be like Demon Balor where like he can call on it whenever he wants. I feel as though it'll be a part of him. It'll be kind of like the movie Split, where it was the multiple personalities, but they kind of knew of each other. It's going to be like the character Kevin and the Beast. Like Kevin knows that the Beast is there and he's trying not to let it come out, but the Beast can't control it, He can't stop from coming out. And I feel as though that's what this demonic Bray Wyatt is. He's going to come out. So I think he should be booked where he's normal and things like that. Like have him come out with the theme of the Firefly Funhouse with the Mr. Rogers look and have him smiling and things like that. And I don't know how they're going to switch out the characters, but they should switch out the characters. So like have him, fight against someone and even possibly lose. And if he loses, they'll cut to like a backstage segment where the person is walking around and then the demonic Bray Wyatt comes out of nowhere and just destroys him. I hope for everything that is good in the world that WWE does not screw up this character, because this character is a creation of Bray Wyatt. And this is something that I have been talking about. I talked about it a few episodes ago about one of the things that is missing from this era versus the Attitude Era, and that is the creative freedom. The freedom to let the wrestler create who they want to be. Now, there's a backstory to the mask, and it's an amazing story. Now, as I said, Tom Savini created the mask, and if you don't know who Tom Savini is, you don't know horror. Tom Savini is the person behind the Friday the 13th mask, a lot of the special effects in Friday the 13th, and he is behind a lot of the special effects in Texas Massacre and a lot of other movies. He is the genius of horror effects. So the mask looks amazing. But the person who is behind drawing out the concept, his name is Kyle Scarborough. And he actually posted the story on social media recently about how the mask came to, how the mask came to life. He is a tattoo artist and a designer. He said that Bray Wyatt contacted him with the idea of what the mask should look like, told him that, he needed help. So he drew the concept of the mask based on what Bray Wyatt said. And he said that Bray Wyatt called him with the excitement of a child. And when he drew up the concept of the mask, he showed it to Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt said, "You saved my career." Now get this, ladies and gentlemen, for all those people who said that WWE hasn't buried Bray Wyatt and that Bray Wyatt messed up his own self. Listen to this. Now that's absurd, but he was in a rut and WWE weren't giving him the green light based on descriptions alone. My drawings were literally on the desk of Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon saw my renderings to help give him a visual guide for Bray's idea, and it was green lit. So Bray Wyatt has actually been trying to get this character developed, and Vince McMahon said no, until Vince McMahon saw what the mask was going to look like and gave it the green light. Slightly confusing. I'm hoping that along with this green light that we'll have good booking with this character, because I am going to be so upset if this character is not used correctly. I feel as though this could be like demonic Doink the Clown almost. I hope that they continue with these episodes of the Firefly Funhouse, because it takes a deeper look behind the character, the two personalities. Continuing on with the story from Kyle, he said that he wasn't able to talk about the mask this whole time. He said he was at a concert the night that the mask was debuted on Raw, and he had a text from Bray Wyatt that simply said, "Congrats, brother. We changed wrestling forever." And he started to get messages from friends and fans who shared the image of the segment. And he said he was so happy for him and, to see something that he loved so much to come to life, which Bray Wyatt responded, "We made it happen." The guy was in tears because, get this, one of my dreams was to go to school at Tom Savini's Makeup FX studio and design movie monsters. Financially, we couldn't make it happen. Of course, I was a lifelong pro wrestling fan, and Bray Wyatt was legitimately one of the only faces in wrestling that excited me to tune in. Now, thanks to my tattoo work catching his attention, I designed the look of the man's on-air character with the help of artists who work for Savini. I still can't process all of this fully. So this is a great story, first of all. For a person who always wanted to work for Tom Savini, and he created a design that ended up being brought to life by Tom Savini's staff. I love the fact that Bray Wyatt came up with the concept of the character, which means this character is going to be more believable because Bray Wyatt is the one who's pumping the personality and the promos and the ideas to life. I really hope that WWE doesn't mess it up because this could be something really good. This can definitely help ratings to have Bray Wyatt with a character like this. And I read too that there were some people out there who said, "Oh, this scared my kid," and things like that. I'm like, first of all, you have your kid watching a show about violence. There was a match with Roman Reigns where he got busted open. There are a lot of matches where you see blood. Explain to your child that the mask isn't real and deal with it. My daughter started watching it and I had her walk away during the segment because I know it will give her nightmares, first of all, if she's a sensitive soul. But have your kid walk away. Tell them to go to the bathroom real quick, brush your teeth, go get some water, something like that. Come on, guys. Let's parent it up a little bit, okay? All you have to do is turn to the news to see things scarier than Bray Wyatt's mask. Let's continue on to the lesser things that happen on Raw, because you can't get any higher than that Bray Wyatt segment. So we have Roman Reigns who opened the show on Raw, and we got some boos from the crowd. He was featured on Miz TV, and we had a lot of the chants of Walk with Elias. Now, of course, Elias ends up coming out, and there was a tag team match against them, which is lazy writing, if you ask me. But another surprise that we got Monday night, was Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross is on TV, but she was a very normal talking Nikki Cross. She didn't say, "Oh, Nikki wants to pay." She didn't say anything like that. We had Alexa Bliss, who somehow lost her luggage because of reasons, And we had Nikki Cross there who, befriended Alexa Bliss, listened to her problems. And I was very skeptical about it. At first I was like, oh my gosh, they messing up Nikki Cross. And I had to think about it. I was like, because Nikki Cross ended up being in the match in place of Alexa Bliss. And I was like, oh, this actually may play into a storyline. It could be because Nikki Cross went straight to the psychotic Nikki Cross, Nikki was to play persona when she got in the ring. So I figured that Nikki Cross is behind Alexa Bliss losing her gear and stuff like that to try to take her place at the Money in the Bank. Or if Alexa Bliss wins the briefcase, that Nikki Cross will be right behind her to make sure that she's next in line. So next we have the dual contract signing with Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans with Becky Lynch, who ended up going through a table. Becky Lynch did a nice little line with two blondes and then said one who can't lose her first title match and one who can't lose her millionth. The segment, I don't know, it didn't really gel that well for me because Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans kind of had this weird vibe, like, yeah, sisterhood, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they kind of like gel together, which didn't make any sense. Really, it didn't really make me that much more excited for the match. Maybe for the Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch match, because they really had a lot of back and forth. But not really with Charlotte. Charlotte's in love, so she's being weird. We had a few matches. We had Ricochet versus Baron Corbin. I still hate the Ricochet bullet in the beginning of his entrance, but it was actually a pretty good match. Baron Corbin was being Baron Corbin, and I hope that he doesn't win the briefcase. We also had a fatal 4-way between Natalya, Naomi, Nikki Cross, and Dana Brooke, where Dana Brooke had the good spot where she jumped off the top of the ladder. We had Nikki Cross who won, and then Alexa Bliss was coming to the ring. Nikki Cross was about to climb. Alexa Bliss was like, no, I'll climb. And Nikki Cross kind of stood there and was like, yeah, my best friend. So very interesting to see where that goes from there. We also had Rey Mysterio versus Cesaro. And this was after a backstage segment where Cesaro was questioning whether Rey Mysterio is really Dominic's father because Dominic is taller than Rey Mysterio and could possibly pass for Samoa Joe's son, apparently. And I was like, oh gosh, not the whole Eddie Guerrero's feud again. Like, let's leave that in the past, please. But after that, they got into a match. It was a pretty good match. I mean, it's Cesaro and Rey Mysterio. I mean, Cesaro is awesome. I feel as though he should have got pushed to the moon back in the day, but still have hope, But I feel as though Rey Mysterio needed this to kind of get the momentum going into the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, while Cesaro is still in limbo due to Sheamus's injury. We also had a Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn Falls Count Anywhere, where the winner goes to the Money in the Bank ladder match. And I had to figure out maybe if I missed something that this match kind of came to fruition. I mean, the last thing I remembered was Braun Strowman dumping Sami Zayn into a dumpster so he can get killed by the dump truck. We had this match and Sami Zayn won, and that is thanks to Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre, who wanted to take out the biggest guy in the room. Okay. I mean, that's a twist. I mean, we complain about how things are predictable, and we got something that wasn't that predictable. I heard that the reason why Braun Strowman was taken out of the Money in the Bank ladder match was because it's to further a storyline that we will see down the road. So, I'm fine with that. I'll see where this goes. Braun Strowman now has 3 men that he's gone against, so we'll see what his next feud should be, whether that's against Baron Corbin or Drew McIntyre or Sami Zayn. I mean, we all know that Braun Strowman's going to interfere in the match now. That's the predictable part about it, but we'll see where this all goes. Now on to SmackDown, which only had 3 wrestling matches. I had to look into this again. And yes, in 2 hours of SmackDown, we had only 3 wrestling matches. We had Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Elias, the Planet's tag team champs, and Shane McMahon, and The Miz was banned from the building during the match. I guess he banned from the ring, but he banned him from the building, which was kind of unnecessary. This was actually a good match. Some people thought that Roman Reigns and the Usos were tagging up for the first time, and it felt like that, but they actually tagged up before. I believe it was twice. I forgot who they went against, but it was a couple of years ago that they had tagged up together. This was before the Uso Penitentiary stuff. I didn't get a chance to look it up yet, but I'm guessing maybe 3-4 years ago, during Roman Reigns' little run, we eventually had we had the run-in with The Miz afterwards with the chair. We also had a fatal 4-way with Ali, Andrade, Orton, and Balor. Of course, this was a good match. I mean, it's a lot of the high flyers, and we had Randy Orton who gave some RKOs out of nowhere. And I don't like it when they do a very good RKO spot before the pay-per-view match. There was a spot, oh man, what was it? I think it was Ali who was diving off the top rope or something like that and got caught in an RKO. And I was hoping they would hold that spot for the pay-per-view. Maybe they'll have something better planned at the Money in the Bank ladder match. But this was a good match. We had Andrade win. Andrade went to climb up to get the briefcase, and then we got Ricochet, who ran in, actually grabbed the briefcase and walked away with it. So I didn't get that part where he walked to the back with it. But I was like, you got to give that briefcase back. But he showed up backstage, gave a quick interview about how he's going to win the briefcase, and that was that. So next up, we have Fire and Desire, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville versus Asuka and Kairi Sane, who has now been named the Kabuki Warriors by Paige, who didn't explain what it meant. The Iconics were on commentary for this match too, and I kind of like the Iconics, but I don't like them on commentary because they talk too much and their voices aren't meant for commentary. I mean, they're funny when they do their backstage segments with the interviews, they're funny, but on commentary with their voices, because their voices are a bit high pitched, it kind of comes across like very nails on a chalkboard type of way. But this match, Fire and Desire lost because Mandy wanted to get the pin, and it's a bit of a foreshadow for the breakup of Fire and Desire, which we may see possibly at Money in the Bank. But I'm hoping they hold it off so that we can get Fire Desire possibly maybe at SmackDown. I mean, not SmackDown, SummerSlam, possibly Extreme Rules. But this is the dead area of wrestling where they kind of just throw things together to see if it sticks. When I heard the Kabuki Warriors, I was like, what? And I immediately thought of the Viking Experience, of course. And I actually Googled the word Kabuki, which the definition of it's a form of traditional Japanese drama with highly stylized song, mime, and dance, now performed only by male actors, using exaggerated gestures and body movements to express emotions, and including historical plays, domestic dramas, and dance pieces. So I was like, this name was completely wrong. I found out that Asuka and Kairi Sane are the ones who wanted to use the word Kabuki. And Asuka is the one who actually gave us the explanation behind this, which still don't make sense to me. That is actually from the word Kabuki Mono, which is often translated into English as strange things or the crazy ones, believed to have derived from kabuku, meaning to slant or to deviate. So that explains a lot more to me, but when you Google the word kabuki, you get what I found, which is the acts that are done only by male actors. But whatever. Some people will say, what's in the name? And I say, ask the Viking Experience, aka the War Raiders, aka the Viking Raiders. And some people in the chat was like, wait, so the Viking Warriors was on the table this whole time? Yeah, it was. But some interesting information that I found out. The Kabuki Warriors is actually an Xbox game from November of 2001. So wait till somebody tweet to Microsoft about this. According to Wikipedia, the game received unfavorable reviews and is considered one of the worst video games of all times. There are complaints about a lack of variety between characters and environments, graphics, and a very limited moveset, and you can only use one button for attack. So, very interested to see if somebody tweets out to Microsoft that, hey, somebody's using the name of one of your worst video games of all time. But we'll see what happens with this tag team. I'm hoping to get a different entrance theme. As much as I love Asuka's song and Kairi Sane's song, it doesn't really gel well remix like that. And I hate how they remix people's songs like that. I mean, it works for the bar because the beats and everything works a lot better. But it's not working for the Kabuki Warriors. I think they should come up with a different entrance theme. The reason why we only had 3 matches is that we had a lot of promo packages. We had Charlotte Flair, who threw to a promo package of her versus Becky. We had another promo package by Lacey Evans, who threw it about her and Becky Lynch too. But it was a lot of talking. It was a lot of promo packages on SmackDown. And I still hate the way that WWE placed their commercials. Because you have a match that's about to start and then you cut it to commercial. Or you have like this very wild spot like we did with the Fatal 4-Way. It was this crazy spot with Ali. And as soon as that happened, we cut to commercial. And I'm like, wait. Like, I want to see what happens next after that crazy spot. At least with SmackDown, we get the picture-in-picture, unlike Raw, where we have to, like, wait for them to post the match on YouTube in order to see it. Coming back to SmackDown, the KO and Kofi segment was pretty good, and we got Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens back together again. I actually liked when they were together as heels. They're very fun together. I'm not sure if Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were going against each other before Sami Zayn left or not. So I would like to say there were a few reviews that I got, and which I'm very appreciative of. Be sure to give me a review on iTunes so that you can tell me how you like the podcast so far. If there's anything you want me to do, any matches you want me to check out. So I got a suggestion to start covering NXT. So just to give a disclaimer, I don't really go too much into NXT because even though it's a really good brand, it's still developmental, and I feel as though it's not fair to be critical of people who are still learning the craft. Now, once you go up to the main roster, then it's fair game because that's them saying that you are ready for live TV. With NXT, their segments are taped. There's promo classes. There's a lot of practicing that goes on behind the scenes, whereas though on the Raw or SmackDown rosters, it's pretty much like go, 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 go. But then I realized with NXT that it is now a TV brand, so when you're on TV, they kind of have a somewhat of an expectation. So I'm not going to be too critical of what happens on NXT, but I will mention what happened this week. So with this week's NXT, just to do a wrap up, Percy Watson, who was the NXT announcer, has quit WWE to pursue an acting career. So we now have Beth Phoenix on commentary for this, and she was fine. I still don't like the 3-person commentary teams. I feel as though it should be 2 people. The conversation goes a lot better with 2 people, because what happens when you have 3 people is you have one person who's dominating, and then you have the second person kind of, goes against what that first person is saying, and then you have the third person that's like playing double dutch that's trying to get into the rope. and they don't know, and they're one of them beginners that don't know when to get in the rope. So they're sitting there going back and forth, waiting to get in until like the right moment. That's quite an analogy I used there. I'm pretty proud of myself because I just thought of that double Dutch analogy. But it's pretty much how the third commentator always is. Whether that is Renee Young, Beth Phoenix, Booker T, it's always that third person that tries to get a few zingers in there. But she was okay on commentary. But we had the main event for NXT was the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders for the tag team titles. Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, who made up after the Matt Riddle attack. The crew is back together again for now. Then next up we had Keith Lee versus Cesar Bononi. I think that is pronounced. I'm a butcher of names, so I apologize to any fan who is upset about it. And Keith Lee, very strong. I like Keith Lee. And I like how the crowd chanted "Bask in My Glory" along with the beat of his song. It was pretty good. But Keith Lee won this match. Next up, we had Kushida. I hope I say that right. Please forgive me if I messed that up. But we had Kushida versus Keona Reeves, who I see now has gone a different gimmick. I missed a few episodes of NXT, so if he has been looking this way for a while, I apologize. But I see now it's a little more hip-hoppy. This was a pretty good match. I mean, this match was so good that Drew Gulak had to come out and watch it firsthand. So we have that feud coming up between Kushida and Drew Gulak. I haven't seen Kushida outside of WWE, so it's pretty nice to watch him now. We're going to get Gargano versus Adam Cole at TakeOver 25, of course. We had a couple of backstage segments. We had the Forgotten Sons, who were upset that the Street Profits were getting a title shot, and they were going to talk to William Regal to settle things. And we also had Bianca Belair, who was wanting to get her title shot, but when she goes to William Regal's office, we had Mia Yim, who was wearing a Tupac shirt, so shout out to her for that, because I like Tupac. And she said that I actually was going to William Regal to get a match against you, Bianca Belair. And then next up, we had Vanessa Bourne, who has a really good look, by the way. But she had Aaliyah with her, and she was going against Jessie. And Jessie, in my opinion, still needs work. I have a pet peeve with wrestlers in NXT that comes out like the generic character from WWE 2K. She came out with the big smile on her face. She was like, oh wow, look how big this crowd is. And all the female wrestlers does this thing where they put up the number one finger high in the air and they climb up on the ropes and they look out the crowd with a big smile on their face and they kind of just nod. Little slight pet peeve of mine, but we'll see what happens. She had some pretty good moves, this Jessie, but she missed a few spots. I kind of blame her more than I blame Vanessa and Aaliyah. Aaliyah went to go slap her in the face, and I guess Jessie wasn't really ready, so Aaliyah had to redo it. And then Vanessa Bourne was trying to do the hair toss, but Jessie must have not had the cue right and kind of just took a couple of steps forward, at which I think either Vanessa or Jessie was thrown to the ropes. All in all, though, with that match, it was okay. It served its purpose. Vanessa Bourne has a very good look, so can't wait to see what she does in NXT. And then we had the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders for the tag team titles, which was a pretty good match. Unfortunately, the match was ended in a DQ with the Forgotten Sons coming in to attack. And then the Viking Warriors laid the titles in the ring and apparently took a bow. So I don't know what that means. Maybe they're dropping the titles to vacant and then the other tag teams have to fight for it. We'll see what happens with next week's NXT. TakeOver 25 is coming on June 1st. So I will have a prediction show, of course, and a review coming in the next couple of weeks. it was a pretty good NXT show. Hopefully, Money in the Bank will be a good pay-per-view this Sunday. For all my Game of Thrones fans out there, can't wait to see what happens in the finale. I am one of those people who do not like the way season 8 has gone, but this is the finale. This is the last episode ever of Game of Thrones. Are we going to see Bray Wyatt at Money in the Bank? Are we going to see Braun Strowman? All that and more coming this Sunday, a week before Double or Nothing. So this is WWE's week to set the bar, to set the standard, because AEW is coming with their pay-per-view. Good luck to them. So that is it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Be sure to hop on Twitter and follow me personally at JAYDEE Talks. That's Jaydee Talks. And be sure to follow the podcast too at Wrestlebread. Be sure to leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want me to cover NXT more. Let me know if there's any indie matches you want me to check out. If there's any type of topics you want me to cover in my weekly segments. Be sure to check out the website, wrestlebread.com too. It'll give you all the links to where I am located as well. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court podcast and alternativeminds.com. Be sure to check out their YouTube channel for Alternative Minds. Shout out to Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show, Chris from We Talk Next podcast, and Chris from Ruthless Rewind as well. Check you guys out next week. Let's all check out Money in the Bank and Game of Thrones together. Can't wait to see what all happens. Peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at Wrestlebread.com and subscribe to Wrestlebread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.